everyone. Alright, so first thing to unpack is the exchange between Shiki and the supposed heart of the chronophages, where it's revealed she used to be a priestess whose time was stolen. And now, as the chronophage, she goes around devouring planets in order to become whole again. And from jump, I gotta say, Mashima really nailed the imagery on this chapter, because getting that visual of Shiki seeing everything the chronophage devoured is actually really eerie and really gives the scope and scale of just how much it's devoured, all for the purpose of becoming itself again, which also begs the question of who is this priestess, the more I think about it, the cat mask in itself, or whatever this is, the light blonde hair, those are things that are like, okay, is this Rebecca? Now that I think about it, looking back on it. And then in this chapter, we see that, oh, yeah, the chronophage, this heart of the chronophage, has the symbol of the cat leaper on her leg. So, yeah, when it kicks Shiki, so yeah, all signs point to this being in Rebecca, or an alternate version of Rebecca, or something like that, and maybe even the chronophage, the heart of the chronophage, is basically like what is basically is basically the Rebecca who basically became Zero's mother, which in itself would explain as to why the chronophage seems to always hone in on places where Rebecca uses her powers, because it thinks it needs Rebecca to become whole again, because they are in essence the same person. The only question that remains is what exactly happened to her. How did this Rebecca ultimately become this mass of a time vortex known as the chronophage? That's kind of my only question here, and the one that needs to be answered in my opinion, because it was either caused by a freak accident on Ziggy's part, or Zero did something to his own mother. It's one of those two things for sure. On that note of Ziggy and Zero, though, Ziggy makes a power play by slicing off Zero's legs, which right out of the gate, yeah, it makes sense that's what he'd aim for, because you take those out of the equation, then the powers become useless and become unavailable. And it's something that we have seen in future scenarios where Rebecca's legs were replaced with mechanical ones. So, yeah, cutting off Zero's legs does feel like checkmate, but that's also the thing. I can't lie, even with the major turnaround on Ziggy's part, it feels like that was a little too easy. Like, Zero still has one more card to play, although at the same time he did still seem pretty shocked when it happened. So, like, this is one of those scenes that's a little hard to read the room for me, as this is one of those things where, as to whether it makes me question if this is really the end of the fight, or for Zero, or if there's one more trick for him to play, which I think in itself does get to another problem I'm having with Eden Zero as a whole right now, which is to say, I'm feeling now more than ever that we're facing a similar problem with Eden Zero that we did with Fairy Tail, that Mashima is kind of rushing the conclusion of the series at this point, whether because it's another Fairy Tail situation where he's at another emotional breaking point and just tired of working on it, or maybe he wants to finish it so he can put his focus more towards Dead Rock, which, for those wondering, yes, I do plan to catch up and start reviewing at some point, probably after Eden Zero is finished. I'm not really rushing towards reviewing that, because from what I understand, it's on a bit more of a monthly, or more of a, I forget if it's a monthly or bi-weekly or something like that, but it's definitely not like it could definitely wait a little bit before I review, let's put it that way. I'm willing to, like, take my time with that one. And yeah, aside from that, nothing much else to talk about, other than we get a little catch up with how the crew is progressing, but it's one of those things where it's just building up to what's going to happen. Like, what's going on with the crew right now is basically a Dragon Ball moment, with that scene where it's building up to something that eventually is going to get a huge payoff from the looks of it, because it even says as much with the, like, 60% build-up rate. Like, although even that's, like, 60%, really, you couldn't be, like, at 70 or 80% now, like, come on. Although, I guess one final thing worth mentioning is we get a back and forth between Zero and Ziggy in this chapter, where we pretty much learn that, yeah, for Zero, it's all a calculus to him. Wiping out humans so machines can survive, there's no other reason behind it other than like a calculation determined he's made that humans just are too fragile in order to survive being the dominant species in the universe. And I do think, although I do admit, I think Ziggy is also correct that part of it might be Zero kind of venting his rage and anger at the world over what happened to his mother, as well on top of a self-loathing of his once human existence. Like, he seems to hate just humans outright to the point where, yeah, it definitely, even just based on that exchange between Ziggy, there's definitely a self-loathing element to there where it's like the man pretty much hates himself. Even he hates himself. He hates his own existence. He just wants machine kind to thrive and evolve and whatnot. Which, that's the problem though. In order for them to truly thrive and evolve, humans and machines do kind of need each other to coexist, because it's that thing where, as it was even proven so much so that, yeah, after, even from the very beginning, that once Shiki left the planet, like, all the residents of Granbell basically, of Granbell Kingdom, basically shut down. So it's like, while that was a situation where they didn't, so the machines are also just as vulnerable as humans in that regard. So he's definitely making a few miscalculations, you could say. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll, be sure to notification bell, the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight, everybody, signing off. Later, everyone.